Hello, this is Matt from tracyandmatt.co.uk, and here I am with both the HTC One Mini and the HTC One. Just thought it was worth doing a little comparison video for you to see the differences between the two. So firstly, you can see that there's a difference in size, although not a dramatic difference in size, I would personally say. In terms of dimensions, let me just read those off for you. So the HTC One is 137 millimeters from top to bottom, versus the HTC One Mini, which is 132, about 5 millimeters shorter. In terms of width, we are 68 millimeters wide versus 63 millimeters wide, again about 5 millimeters difference. In terms of thickness, they are both the same at 9.3 millimeters. Primarily that's caused by the size of the camera and how deep the camera actually has to sit within the actual chassis of the device anyway, and they do both have the same camera. It's the 4 megapixel ultra pixel camera, so they both have the same camera. Obviously different placement of the LED flash there. Taking a look around the sides of the handsets, we do have the micro SD card on both on the same side, the charge connector, the micro USB connector is on the bottom, as is the primary microphone. Onto the right hand side, both have an up and down volume control, whereas the HTC One has sort of like a single molded button for the volume control. It is 2 physically separate buttons on the HTC One Mini. Swinging around to the top, headphone connector is in the same location, so that's a 3.5mm jack, 4-pole for using headsets or indeed headphones of your own kind. Power buttons on both things, again in the same place. The difference here is the power button on the HTC One is where the infrared transmitter is housed, and there is no infrared transmitter on the One Mini. So you can't use it for like TV remote control and stuff like that on the One Mini. But the placement of the buttons are the same. It's a little bit of a shame. That's kind of one of the features I quite like. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a really useful feature and something that I use fairly frequently on the HTC One. On the back, we've already mentioned the cameras, so they are identical, and obviously they are very similar in terms of overall design. Weight is another thing that's sort of a bit different, as you would expect. So we're 143 grams for the One and 122 grams for the One Mini. So there's the just 21 grams difference, but it is actually quite noticeable. The screens, again, is obviously another place that we've got the sort of fairly significant difference. The Super LCD 3 on the HTC One is Full HD, so 1080 by 1920 pixels, and is 4.7 inch, versus the HTC One Mini, which is 720 by 1280, so a 720p display. It's 4.3 inches. The other significant difference is in the, well, I say significant, the other difference is in the overall design on the outside. So there's the white edge bezel plastic on the One Mini, which is only present actually on the main outside on the HTC One. So forward from the front you can't really see the white outline, whereas you can on the One Mini, which I know some people are a little bit off-put by. The speakers are also the same, albeit slightly different size, but they are both they both have the boom sound speakers and forward-facing cameras. And on the One Mini we have the Super LCD 2 versus Super LCD 3, and say 720p. I'm going to do a quick look at these, and I've set them up basically the same because it's kind of how I roll. I know where my applications and my icons are, so I've set them up as much as possible to be the same. And you'll notice that see the real estate on the screen is a little different. The One Mini is that bit lighter, particularly when it comes to something like let's go into bring up the keyboard, for example. Although there's not perhaps a dramatic difference in screen size, 4.7 versus 4.3, that is one place that I notice the difference is in the QWERTY keyboard on screen using the touchscreen. is fairly significantly different. It's just a case of what you get used to, and obviously I will get used to having the smaller screen, and I am liking the HTC One Mini. It is a nice design. I'm just going to switch our backlight brightness on both to maximum. There we go. Now, one thing obviously is again different about the two is in the specification of the CPU and the available memory. So on the HTC One we have 32 gig of internal memory versus 16. We have 2 gigabytes of RAM versus 1 gigabyte, and we have a quad-core 1.7 gigahertz Cray processor versus a dual-core 1.4 gigahertz Cray processor. What does that mean in real terms? Well, obviously the HTC One Mini is a little bit slower in terms of raw horsepower, but in terms of actual user experience, I haven't found there's too much difference in sort of day-to-day functionality for using things like, I don't know, Facebook, email, web browsing, and a few games that I actually play. I wouldn't say there's a dramatic difference, but one of the things that I guess you may want to see is a quick benchmark, which we will go ahead and run on both, just so you can see the difference between the two. If I can actually find, there we go. We'll run a quadrant benchmark on both, and let's go ahead and do that now, and you'll be able to see the difference as we kick them off and they run through. Let's just zoom that in a little bit. You'll notice that the HTC One has gone ahead already, and the One Mini is just finishing up its CPU tests. Both performing quite well when it comes to graphics tests, as you would expect. And the HTC One Mini is kind of catching up a little bit. So let's just wait for the One Mini to finish, and obviously you can see that the HTC One has finished probably a good 10 seconds or so ahead. Okay, so let's see our benchmark results. Okay, so on the HTC One we have 12,000 as our score versus just under 6,000, 5,900 on the HTC One Mini. Potentially we're looking at half the performance really on the HTC One Mini versus the HTC One. Now that is kind of given away somewhat in that we have a quad-core 1.7 versus a dual-core 1.4. That's not the whole story, of course, because in, as I say, day-to-day operation, they're both performing quite well indeed. I think primarily it's going to come down to, if you're making a choice, the difference between the two. Obviously, size is going to be a factor. And the resolution of the display is going to be a factor. 720p versus 1080, 720 versus 1080 on the screen designs as well. So there we go. That's just a quick summary of the difference between the HTC One Mini and the HTC One. The HTC One Mini is just about to go on sale. Actually, I think you can pick this up now, and obviously the HTC One has been on sale for a little while. I'm going to have a sort of more of a review of the HTC One Mini over the next couple of weeks. I've been tweeting about it on at Tracy and Matt. So if you want to follow us on Twitter, it's at Tracy and Matt, TracyandMatt. And I've been tweeting about those, and I've been tweeting some videos, photographs rather, the videos. And been comparing the two, so we'll have more in-depth review of the HTC One Mini on tracyandmatt.co.uk. But for now, thanks for watching.